What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the final part of my subscriber track reviews. It's been a lot of fun so far, and I want to thank you for being on this journey with me, and thank you for being a subscriber of mine, either on my YouTube channel or on my email list. It really means a lot, and it really allows me to give back to you and interact with you one-on-one. So just thank you for being with me on this journey so far. It really means a lot. So I've been getting a lot of questions recently, actually, since I started this series, asking me how you can get your tracks in and, get my personal feedback on it. And there's a couple of ways. First of all, I do have a Patreon account, and if you're interested in getting some more in-depth feedback, I have a tier where I specifically feature viewers, on a certain tier, and they're featured on the channel. So that's one very direct way to do it. A second way to do it absolutely free is to download any of my guides in the description box, and just make sure that when you're opting in for the free guide, you also check that little box that lets you know that you'll be receiving weekly emails from me, so that I can let you know when these announcements about these announcements when these things are going on, like track reviews and things like that, so that we can stay connected together like that. And then one final way is if you just want to go on to my storefront on Podia, just by accessing any one of my free guides, you can also scroll to the bottom of the storefront and just leave your contact information there, and I can contact you there as well. So many ways to get in touch, but that's just a couple of ways to let me be able to contact you if in case you're interested in things like these in the future. So without further ado, let's get into the final 12 tracks. It's been a lot of fun again. And let's start right away with Trey's Quarantine. So we're just going to zoom out a touch here so I can get a sense of the length of these tracks. They're all pretty good in length. Here we go. Let's start with Trey's Quarantine. So we already get a nice C minor progression with these low fat strings. So it's already that type of action scene with these low octave strings. Ooh, interesting. Okay, so right there, Trey, and there were a couple of instances of other tracks where we just want to make sure we're getting the right chords that we're going for. And it's always a fine balance, because I'm not always sure if these are intentional or not, but when I hear a clash and a mismatch between two different chords, I want to point it out just in case you're unaware of it. So this A flat chord is good, and so were the first few chords here. But this one here, your low strings are playing an F major chord, F A C. Your high strings, you have like B and D, and then you go down to B flat and D flat. None of those notes belong in the F major chord. So there's a bit of a weird clash going on here between these notes. So you're kind of going like between G major and G flat major in your right hand or in your high strings, and you're going on an F major chord in your left hand or in the low strings. So that's where that mismatch is happening. You'd want to address that if you want to publish this and you want it to sound very nice and consonant. That chord right there, it has a bit of a rub, so you just want to look into that a bit. So now you have a theme coming in. That's nice. Same idea there. So like your theme is good, your melody is there, your harmony is there, but there's a couple of chords in the middle that are just a little bit clashing in kind of those high strings. That's not the melody. So yeah, just look into that and fix those couple notes there. Yeah, so right there, there's another instance of this like second last chord, or the last chord of the chord progression before you go back to the C minor. Yeah, so like there, it feels like you want to go for a G7, but then you have this, there's a B flat in the top. Right there, that B flat is clashing with your G7. And then your low strings are playing, I think it's some sort of G7 chord. Yeah, they're kind of a weird weird combination of notes in the very bottom as well. If it sounds more cloudy at the bottom, it's probably because you have too many notes close together. So it's creating a bit of a muddled type of mess. What you want to do is make sure the notes are separated by at least a third, because I'm hearing some clusters in there. I think you have some voices that are like a step apart. So that's what's kind of creating that bit of a clash, okay? Let's skip through a bit here. There's another rub there in the low strings. Just watch that. Right there, another rub. Watch that one. I like that you're bringing out some brass here. I would love to hear some percussion as well, some like nice grooves, you know, some patterns. Okay, and then you get this kind of long reverb at the end there. So I personally expected the reverb actually not to be there because the whole piece was relatively dry up to this point, at least for the raw samples, the string samples. So hearing that longer tail there is kind of a mismatch between what we heard before, and then at the very end, you have this long tail. But other than that, just watch some of those chord rubs. Okay, you know, some of the high strings and the low strings have a bit of a mismatch, and then also later in the piece, because the entire thing is building up with strings, you're getting more and more intense. So you want to make sure that there are more elements that are introduced later to enhance the overall experience and not just stick with the strings. I know you added some brass in there as well, which is awesome. So I would want to hear some percussion as well, because it kind of has that trailer or at least action type of vibe. So it could be really supported by some nice non-tonal percussive elements. Hope that makes sense. Great. All right, let's move on to Michel's One Big Universe. Here we go. So this nice spacious, larger than it's more of a contained type of feel to it, but it is very nice. So I'm expecting it to kind of expand more and more as we see in the waveform here. You're adding in these textural effects. That's nice. You have this Lydian sound with the D major and C major. So yeah, one thing that kind of stood out to me, Michelle, is that right here in this section, you're building more and more, and it seems like you have a theme going on. I hear some sort of melody in the top, right? However, your mid range is also quite loaded with material. So you kind of want to decide: do I want the melody to be heard more, or do I want it more to be of a paddy textural type of feel where the melody is not as audible or not as obvious? So depending on which way you lean, you want to go all in on that one side, because like right now, at least to my ears, it's a little bit ambiguous as to should I be hearing that melody on the top or should I be hearing kind of the mid range. So if I hear this, so one reason this is happening is because your melody, your theme is actually kind of close to the middle C range, but your pad stuff is also around the middle C range. So it is conflicting with each other. It's not giving the ear that definition of like, okay, if this melody was at least an octave higher, then we hear that separation and the ear can automatically latch onto the higher thing as being the melody. But right now it feels like both the melody and the harmonic patterns are around the same register above middle C. Does that make sense? So you want to maintain that sense of separation, which is very, very important in music, because our ear wants to focus on one thing at a time. Our ear should be able to focus on one thing at a time, whether that be one body of sound or one theme, a main theme, or whether that be some like groove type of thing. There should always be something for our ear to focus on, but our ear should never be confused, in my opinion. So that is something I think you can address pretty easily, actually, in this piece, or at least in this section. So here you clear up to a nice C major chord, so that's totally fine. If I were you personally, I would probably go all in with that kind of the theme on the top, and I would have those lower instruments also play the melody, but in octave away, So it at least gives the melody more emphasis. So this is quite nice. I would want to hear a few more low instruments in there just to give it a little more support. But here you can hear the theme pretty clearly. There's a pretty clear theme so far. Okay, now it's a little muddy there. Nice woodwinds. Nice, Michelle. Yeah, so same idea here. I like that you're bringing in your horns here that are giving it a bigger sense of melody, and they're more upfront. So there's a couple things you can do, especially like on the second chord of your chord progressions. It got a little bit muddy just because the harmonic instruments in the background kind of rose up with it, so it started getting in the way of the horns a little bit. This is one of those cases, again, where you want to either separate the instruments either by a little more by volume, so put the horns, leave them up where they are in terms of volume, take the background instruments, bring them down a little bit. Another thing you can do is put maybe high strings to layer above the brass, like an octave above, to outline the melody with it, because that can also give it some separation in comparison to everything else. But volume balances across instruments is super important, as well as the orchestration. So deciding which instruments are playing the melody, which ones are playing the harmony, and then making sure that those instruments are actually featured compared to the other ones. Okay? Hope that makes sense. All right, awesome. Rachit, here we go together. Overall, the mix is sounding nice and clean so far, Rachit. And I like your harmonic progressions. Nice punchy percussion. Really fills in the stereo width and everything. I like the sense of space that your snare drum is giving. Nice sense of gel and cohesion with the reverb in this section. Very nice. So this whole piano section is very nice. I think even a little bit of external reverb, kind of to match what you did here, could be even cooler. So this would make it even more cinematic. Nice string support underneath. Now your strings are also supporting the melody. Nice. So the cool thing is you're ending on a G chord here. So we're in D major, but you're landing on the 4 chord. So I'm thinking that if you want to leave it a little more open-ended, because we're not landing on the 1 chord, you don't really need that last cymbal hit, in my opinion. I think just that nice drum roll and then just leaving it hanging is a pretty cool way to end it. I think those little ding, ding, those tinkles at the top can be a touch quieter, just a little bit. And I was going to say here, it also feels like maybe there's a melody that's supposed to be going on, but the harmonies are a little bit loud and present in comparison to the melody. So kind of like how Michel's piece, we were trying to decide, like, you know, what is the main part? Are we trying to focus on a melody, or are we trying to focus on the harmonic elements? Really decide on that and try to bring that forward a little bit more. I think from this large part onto the end, I think the production was spot on. You have a lot of really great elements that are happening. So keep that up, Rachit. You did a fantastic job with the overall production. The orchestration is very good. And just near the end here, I like that you brought the strings in and also supported the main melody with those high strings in the piano. Okay, awesome. Let's move on to Laurin's The Mentalist fan-made rescore. Here we go. Interesting sense of panning here. It feels like it's going from left to right. Okay, so Laurin, that's actually one thing I haven't really heard before, is having a constant percussive rhythm, like a pattern of like that snap and stuff, having it shift from one side to another and then back and forth. That potentially can get a little bit distracting. So what I would do is commit to having some of your percussive elements on one side, some on the other side, and then just stick with that, because then that will allow your main melodic elements or your more tonal elements, like the ones that actually produce notes, to allow the ear to focus on those. We don't want the ear constantly confused between, oh, is it going to shift to the left or to the right now? All those percussive elements. But so far that's the only thing that comes to mind. So I'm assuming you're using some swing libraries here from Project Sam. I can imagine you drawing in that panning waveform like this. Like a sine wave. In addition, I think in addition to all these jumpy elements and this very bouncy feel, I really like it. I think you could have one more sustained element in there, maybe like a longer clarinet melody or a longer saxophone type of melody to make it a little more cohesive, just a bit. But as it is, it's already very jumpy and very fun. And one more thing, when you have all those strings short, like string staccatos, spiccatos, they feel like they're quite a bit consistent in terms of the velocity. So play around with the velocity, like which notes you want stronger versus which ones you want a little bit lighter, because that'll give it more of a sense of like dun, 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 right? You don't want it just to sound like dun, 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 dun. You don't want them all the same type of velocity. So humanize the velocity just a little bit. Maybe put more emphasis on the 1 and the 3, or maybe 1 and the 4 even. Like play around with it and have fun with, which notes you're accenting and bringing out, okay? Hopefully that helps. Good stuff. But the main thing is I would adjust that panning. I would just keep some elements on the left, some on the right, maybe some up the center. But other than that, I wouldn't touch I wouldn't make it constantly move from left to right in terms of the panning. Okay? Cool, Laurin. Thank you. All right. Chip has the Dark Forest. Let's hear this. Nice ethereal feeling here with these kind of ambiguous type of chords. You have these like seconds and fourths in there. Nice piano sound. Choir's just a touch loud in my opinion. Yeah, I would start them a little bit quieter and then have them swell up more after. I like this progression a lot. That's very nice. Nice use of chromatic medians there, going from G minor to E minor. And that's going from like F minor to A flat minor. That's another minor third motion. Nice counter melodies there. Good use of the contrast in woodwinds. You can add some strings in here as well, layering up that middle register a bit. So you have this nice string ostinato on the left, pan left. So I would put a little more reverb on that. Because right now I feel isolated to that one side. I would just put a bit of reverb on that to make it a little more cohesive. Maybe turn it down a little bit in volume, just a touch. This is very similar to the beginning. Nice. So yeah, Chip, you've got some very interesting harmonic movements here and some pretty catchy hooks as well. So just in general, I would say couple of volume balances. Let's see. Yeah, so in this part, it was mainly the string ostinato that kind of caught me off guard on the left a little bit. I would want that to be a little bit more in the reverb and maybe pulled back just a touch, dial it back in terms of volume. But you've got some nice interaction between your woodwinds there that have a lot of potential. I think that works quite well. And then I think you could just support those parts with a little more body, maybe in the strings or something. Just to bring it forward a little bit more. Do some EQ on those strings as well, though. Sometimes they're a little bit harsh, a little bit thin. So notch out some of those offending frequencies, and then that should allow your woodwinds to sit a little bit better. Also, feel free to tweak the woodwinds in terms of the automation of the volume themselves. Sometimes it could seep in a little bit quieter, rise up a little more, and then come back down afterwards. Okay, awesome. All right, we have Conor's Quartal. Here we go. Very interesting instrumentation choices here, Conor, because you have like piano, you have horns, and you also have a double bass. Not a typical like symphonic lineup or a jazz lineup either. It's interesting. Okay. I'm getting this kind of like sci-fi type of like late night type of vibe. Very cool sound design stuff. Oh, here it is, double bass. That's very groovy. I like that a lot. I personally think that violin could actually be up the center because it's kind of layering it on top of the French horns, which are up the center. So I think it would match very well if you brought that violin up to the center. So it's a little bit alone by itself on the side there, on the left. It has this kind of improving type of fashion that is actually pretty cool. I really enjoy this. I mean, I like jazz in general, so it's kind of reminding me of some like some reharm type of things. All I can say, this is a really nice change of pace. Yeah. Awesome, Connor. Thank you for sending that in. So yeah, in general, just a lot of fun. A very nice laid back piece. I love the use of the double bass in there, and very interesting that you brought in the violin as well. I think bringing that up the center would be, personally for me, a better choice. Aside from that, I don't really have anything else to say. Like it's very fun, relaxing. You know, I love the vibe you're going for there. So great stuff. Cool. All right, Christian, let's hear Crystallarium Part 1. This is fun. This is kind of quirky. I like this. The short woodwinds kind of sound like Holly woodwinds to me. But, you know, I could be wrong. It just has that kind of like happy Hollywood type of vibe to it. Is that CSSS? So overall, it feels like a nice wash of sound so far, Christian. It's not really like I'm hearing a distinctive melody that I'm like, oh, I'm definitely gonna remember that melody, you know, after the first time of listening. For me, I'm just enjoying the overall experience a little bit more because there's the chord structure is kind of interesting. It's a little bit different, and the textures are quite unique. So. I think another thing is it's balanced very well, which allows the listener to enjoy, you know, what you've been doing here. Personally, I don't think you need those last two woodwind chords there. But yeah, just a lot of fun again. And, you know, it had a lot of that jumpy type of nature to it. And you made some of the chords, where most of the chords were clusters. So you had a lot of steps in between the notes. That's what creates a lot of this kind of ambiguous type of sound that lets the listener enjoy more than analyzing what's happening. So yeah, thank you for sending that in. That was very cool. Kind of quirky. All right, Andy has Citadel. Okay, so Andy, so far, really cool melodic and harmonic progression. The main thing I've noticed orchestrationally is that you have string octave in the top, low string shorts in the bottom, and then like one line in the middle, maybe that's like a horn or something, that is filling in the entire rest of the range. And for me, the mid-range is actually where you want to do a lot of your body, like where you want to fill it in a lot of, put in a lot of stuff that can give it some definition and detail. Because the top and the bottom are already very unique and we already hear what's happening there. So you see how the mid-range feels a little bit empty. What you can do is put some more counter melodies in there. You could put some additional short notes and different instruments in there to contrast against the basses in the bottom. Just give it more information. Juice it up a little bit with some additional instrumentation in the middle range. Because your top, your melody is very present. Your low strings are tugging. They're very upfront. So your mid is a bit lacking at the moment. But aside from that, your melodic ideas I enjoy. And then the bottom part, you have that nice harmonic support. That's cute. That's quirky. I like that. Nice. Uh-oh. Cinnabrass. There's the snare drum. Very interesting gong type of sound there. Very cool. Yeah, I like the arrangement here. It's nice and it's kind of full, you know. Maybe the additional brass instrument in there, like in the mid range as well, to fill that out. But especially here in the beginning, just make sure that your mid range has some additional instrumentation in there to give it an even more rich flavor. At the moment, your theme is very prominent, so is the bass line, and you can hear that it's panned slightly to the right, or it's recorded a bit to the right. So maybe put that back up the center. Completely up to you, but see how that goes. I really like this part here though, with that little tinkling melody. That was really nice. All right, Vishnu has The Wounded Girl. Let's have a listen to this. Very interesting. Gives me some ASMR vibes right there with that water. Nice melody. Feels like the solo string on the top is a bit behind, so I might pull that forward just a little bit. Yeah, so Vishnu, this dun 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 dun, it's poking out a little too much in my opinion, so it's kind of distracting from the main melody in the middle. It's a little bit overly loud for me, just a bit. Very interesting like sound effect stuff that are going on there. There's that string again. Sinister mood right now. Super high strings. Kind of fades away. And what do we have here? This part here is super lovely. I love that. It's very, very cinematic, very reverberant. Let's see, a couple little spots here. I think that rhythm in the background is a little bit too loud. It could be a little bit softer. I think that would detract a little bit less from your melody line in the top there. So for me, I like the melodic and harmonic ideas here are very solid. I think what you're going for. So it was just a bit of the balances. Watch a bit of the volume balances. Maybe write down on a piece of paper the aspects that you want to hear more of and things that are playing more of a supportive role, and then tweak those accordingly. Because a couple of those supporting elements are just a little bit loud in my opinion compared to everything else. But yeah, well done. Thank you, Vishnu. All right, now we have Daniel's Yutallis Awakes. Here we go. Wow. I mean, Daniel, that's awesome. The fact that you chose to kind of go with an odd meter, especially in this part, kind of keeps the listener on their toes and not really knowing what to expect next. The next thing I have to give you props on is that your overall production feels very cohesive, like all the instruments could be playing together in the same room. So that's awesome. The only thing I have a bit of a issue with is just the stereo panning on the strings when they come in. They feel a little bit narrow, a little bit mono. So either take some of those parts and spread them out a little bit more so your main line can stay up the middle, and then maybe spread out the rest a little bit more, or apply an overall like stereo imager on those strings, and then turn that up a little bit so they feel a little bit more spread out, because your horns really fill up the hall beautifully, and when the choir parts come in, those are also filling up the hall very nicely. But again, it kind of has a bit of a mismatch between the choir and the strings. Have a quick listen to this end part. Especially like dun 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 dun, you hear it's a little bit more narrow up the center. But when the choir comes in, it's suddenly more expansive and it fills up both sides really beautifully. So I would love the strings to do the same thing. So apply a little bit more reverb on those, maybe extend the tail, and then maybe duplicate some of the string tracks and just put them on opposite sides just to fill it out a little bit more. But other than that, really well produced, good orchestration, and a very solid effort. Thank you, Daniel. All right, so now we have Ben's Spring original score. Let's have a listen. Ooh, okay. I like those high strings a lot. Very nice. Nice catchy theme. Nice. Nice Lydian sound there. So this is accompanying a film scene, by the way, but we're just hearing the audio here. But you can already tell, like it's following what is happening on screen, so it's like it's well crafted. Nice. Okay, Ben. Yeah. So I'm really enjoying the harmonic language you're using here. It's kind of quirky. It's kind of bouncy, and it really follows what the scene is doing, I'm assuming. Just in this little swell here, I might have heard something. Yeah. So your high, da, 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 your melody and your harmony are also swelling in at the same time, which is nice, but I kind of want it to start a little bit quieter, just in comparison to everything else that's been happening. It has a bit of an abrupt entrance, so starting a bit quieter I think would fit a little bit better. Yeah, maybe having an additional mid-range instrument in there as well. Da, 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 doo, 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 or doo, doo. Like maybe sustaining a C in there, because that's a common tone between the C and the F chords. But other than that, I think it is very nice. But I think this volume contrast there in between, these quiet parts is maybe a little too much. If you just analyze the waveform, it looks like you want this to be like it's supposed to be in the background of the scene, right? So maybe this volume contrast is a little bit too much. So I might just turn these instruments down a touch just to make them fit a little bit better. But other than that, I'm enjoying what I was hearing there. So awesome. All right, Kendall has Paranoid. Let's have a listen here. Okay. Kendall, very, very different compared to everything else we've heard so far. But yeah, thank you for sending that in. Very cool. Production is awesome. I love the kind of effects you put on the voice, and the overall instrumentation is quite simple, right? You have that beat, you also have that kind of synth element giving the harmonic elements, and then we also have the voice in the top. I personally want to hear some more high ear candy, like some stuff to spice it up even further. Because the voice is really the only main featured element there. Then you have the synth in the background. So some other additional instruments to spice it up even further, maybe some like clicks and clacks in the top, or some maybe like like these syncopated type of rhythms you can have, maybe tonal instruments. Play around with it a little bit more, maybe in terms of the instrumentation, but in terms of the energy and the vibe, I think you're nailing what you're going for there. So the mix is quite good. You have, the basics there. The other thing that just popped out to me is that the vocal is slightly out of time in some spots. So a little bit of vocal editing in terms of the timing could help just a little bit. Like sometimes it feels like the words or the syllables are coming in a little bit early. At times a touch late. Those milliseconds really add up, and they really count to a more like cohesive type of vocal performance. So just addressing that a tiny bit, I think, would help as well. But yeah, awesome job. All right, we're on our final track of the series. Mike has David's Return. Let's have a listen. This already sounds kind of like Schindler's List. Very plaintive and mellow and laid back. So for me, the percussion's a little bit loud in comparison to the other instruments. I would probably have those other instruments swell up a little bit more and maybe leave the percussion volume as it is. But yeah, so Mike, I'm really enjoying the harmonic progressions, the chord choices you're using, but I feel like they're lacking a little bit because of the balances, and in terms of the automation of the volume, you can really have some additional dynamics in here. So take those tonal instruments, those strings, those if you have some brass or woodwind instruments, ride them up a little bit more so they have a little more contrast, and then leave your percussion a little bit quieter because that's supposed to be the supporting element, I think. I like the volume in which you started, but I think especially kind of in this middle section to the very end, it can have some additional swell, even more push to really lift it to the next level. And it doesn't feel like the piece is finished. I'm sure you have, even more going on, because this part is building up so beautifully. So it would be interesting to see how you carry it on from there. But yeah, just watch out for the balances and tweak the automation of the individual instruments to bring out the parts that you really want to be brought out a little bit more. Awesome, everybody. Thank you so much for submitting your tracks. It's been a lot of fun. I really do appreciate it. For me, it's been fun, and hopefully it's been helpful to you if I reviewed your track. Thank you again. And I'm not sure if I'll do this again in the future. I probably will, to be honest. So if you want to be updated on that and you want to be like the first to know when these things happen, please feel free to download any of my guides in the description boxes of any of my videos. And again, if you're a new subscriber, feel free to check that box. Excuse me. That will give you the option to receive regular emails from me that will let you know when I'm doing these things. If I have new content, if I have new guides that I don't usually publish to the public first, I'll publish those to you guys first who are, with me in my community. And then the other way to do it is if you already have some of my guides, then feel free to just go on the storefront of my page and just scroll to the very bottom and enter your email there, and I can send you regular updates there as well. Yeah, but aside from that, feel free to subscribe to the channel if you want to stay tuned for new tutorials and new content that I've been doing and I'm working on. I've got some really cool stuff coming up in the next month and a little bit. As you noticed, I've been uploading at least 2 videos a week so far for the time being, and I'll try to keep this up as long as possible until COVID is gone, and then we'll go back to our regular lives. But I'm definitely going to commit to at least 1 video a week in however long I can. So anyway, thank you very much. Thank you again for 5,000 subscribers. It means a lot, that you guys have been sticking with me so far. So yes, I'll see you in the next video. Everybody take care. And yeah, I'll see you in the next video. Okay. Anyway, see you. Bye-bye.